be entertaining. It sometimes gets bloody.
I still think I won last year as far as my count goes. So how many people is this our first year attending our panel?
Well, welcome.
The story behind this comic book movie anonymous panel comes from many, many years ago when I was just a simple person like you at the convention, and a friend of mine, Rebecca Smith, was in charge of programming, and their comic book guy did not show up to a panel. And she's like, Drew, you used to work in a comic book store. I was like, yeah. She's like, can you do a panel? I was like, okay. So I walked in, and there was like 20 people in the room. I said, this dude ain't me. 18 people left.
Two stayed.
Two guys stayed behind. And we just basically turned this into a rant session about what we believe Hollywood is doing to our movies. Now, I will say this. In the years from when we began this panel to now, they have done much better, I must say. Because at the time when we first started the panel, we were talking about wonderful things like Jonah Hex, okay? And now we can talk about wonderful things like Thor 2.
The way I got involved with this is because basically I attended the panel one year. My name is Rob Serio. I'm a writer, long-time comic book enthusiast. I've been reading comics since pre-crisis. But I came in one year and listened to him rant about what was Superman Returns is the one that pissed me off.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Superman Returns, while I admit it is not the best Superman movie ever made, we'll admit this, okay? There's a core of a good movie in there. If you lop off the first 20 minutes and lop off the last 20 minutes, there's a great story in there about Superman saving the Metropolis
For like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you added some good dialogue to it, it'd be awesome.
Now, what
a lot of potential.
As far as Superman Returns goes, a mutual friend of ours, one Nolan of the New Rick Labs, had stated that he had finally watched House of Cards, which is the Netflix original series.
Oh my God! Let me tell you.
His exact words were, "If Kevin Spacey would have acted like that as Lex Luthor, Superman Returns would have been the best movie ever." But guess what? He did it!
Yes, this is true. See, a lot of the problem with movies like Superman Returns is that the director that takes over the character doesn't actually make Superman. He makes his vision of the Superman. And in his case, well, you know, it's one of those things where his vision of Superman was very much based on the Richard Donner movies. And don't get me wrong, like one of my favorite movies for a long time was Superman 2. I mean, it stood as a long time as the gold standard of superhero movies, primarily because things like The Dark Knight had to remake. Okay, but the problem is that I went to go see Superman Returns 20 years ago. I paid to see that movie where Lex Luthor comes up with a land grab scheme. You know, I saw that movie. I didn't want to see it again. I have the same problem with the new Star Trek movie, by the way. The Darkness, I have exactly the same problem with it, where I paid to see that movie 20 years ago. But that's a whole nother topic.
But since we are on Superman Returns, let's start with our first movie blockbuster, Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
Now, I'll admit, I have recently acquired a business, so I wasn't able to get out to the movie theaters to watch it in the theater. However, I did get to see it 8 times in a row while I was waiting in line to get an Xbox One at Walmart.
Let's hear your criticism of the movie first.
Criticism of the movie is, I really have to say, the entire fight scenes reminded me so much of like watching it going. First time, like, this is awesome. But the third time, I was all like, they really should have made this the Dragon Ball Z movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, I had the same feeling about the last Matrix movie.
Yeah.
When he's fighting Agent Smith at the end of that movie and in the Matrix, I kept saying to myself, this is the Superman movie I want to see. This is Superman versus Zod right here. And they never actually made that movie.
But I will say this, I mean, we all know that Man of Steel is really just basically a preliminary aspect of the DC's eventually want to make the whole JLA movie, which is why we have movies coming.
Well, yeah, obviously the next one, Man of Steel 2, is going to be the Justice League movie.
Exactly.
I mean, because they've got Batman, they've got Wonder Woman.
Taking it as that, you realize it's just really kind of like a setup, prequel. Because I mean, if you think about it, Batman Begins really wasn't that big.
Yeah.
You catch me? This is more along the lines of this is, and while Nolan did produce Man of Steel, it wasn't really.
Yeah, it wasn't his movie.
Yeah, it wasn't his movie. So he didn't really have it. Which I think a lot of people went in thinking that, oh my God, it's gonna be as great as The Dark Knight, and it was the director, produced it. Because apparently.
Well, one of the things I think Man of Steel got right is the fact that they played Clark as a likable character.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you very much you want to like him when he shows up. You know? And I think that was one of the big problems with Superman Returns, is it was really hard to like super stalker baby daddy. You know, I mean, there were so many problems with that character at that point. But the fact that they made him likable from the beginning. One of my favorite scenes in that movie, has everybody seen it, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm not spoiling anything. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is towards the end of the movie, where he tells the general, he's like, dude, I'm from Kansas. You know, that's very much the Superman I grew up with. You know, it's not that he's a strange alien from another planet. It's that he's a farm boy with superpowers. You know, and I've always felt that that's really the right take on Superman. If you want to make it interesting.
I will admit that I was wrong on one aspect of my last year's conversation.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner did not do that shitty of a job.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Kevin Costner, well, we all had doubts about Kevin Costner podcast. I will admit it. And
I'm
actually,
trying to go to
the one problem I have with Superman, with that Superman movie, is your dad's about to get sucked up by a tornado, and you have the power to stop it, and you don't. You just stand there. No. Fuck that. No, farm boy from Kansas. At that point, and furthermore, with his powers, it's not hard to save him and not get caught. You know, I mean, there are a million ways with Superman's powers he could have saved Bobcat right there, and he did it. That's the one problem I have with it. I know a lot of people have a problem with the fact that he killed Zod.
Oh God, that's part of the damn movie.
Yeah, well, show of hands here. How many people actually had a problem with that? The fact that Superman kills at the end of the movie?
I did, because I like Michael Shannon.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it blew up on the internet. A lot of people saying, you know, well, this isn't Superman. Superman doesn't kill. And I'm like, boy, you guys haven't been reading comics very long, have you? I mean, back when he was created in the 30s, he threw people out the window all the fucking time. He's like, gangster? Not a problem.
Yeah, he's not that.
And more recently, towards the early 90s, he killed Zod. He killed Zod and the criminals from the Phantom Zone because he felt that they were too dangerous to survive. So he exposed them to Green Griffin. So I mean, it was in the character to do it.
The biggest problem I have with that movie was the fact that he did not try to take that fight out of Metropolis.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
how many people died in that fight?
Yeah, I mean, well, my thing is that you know, it's either go destroy the planet killer or in China or save Metropolis, and he goes to China. You know, that bugged me too. It really did.
Well, you can understand that because he was the only one fast enough to actually get there in some reasonable amount of time.
Right.
You know,
Well,
when he was
when the military suggests that, they don't know anything about his abilities or powers. They don't really know how fast he is or how strong he is. They don't know for sure that he can stop the damn thing when they send him there. So I mean, there were flaws there. There were flaws there, and I'm willing to admit that there were flaws there. Have any of you guys watched this wonderful web series, How It Should Have Ended?
Yeah.
They did one on Man of Steel, and it was great. Where he's like, oh well, if only there was someone I could talk to that knew something about Zod. He's like, oh wait, Space Dad. And Jor-El tells exactly how to stop him, and the movie's over in 10 minutes. And then he kisses Lois Lane, flies around the world, flies the camera, and the movie. And I'm like, yes, that's how it should have been. There's no question in mind. That's how that movie should have been.
Since we're on the topic of destroying cities, let's review our next blockbuster for summer, Pacific Rim.
I thought we were going to talk Thor 2 because they destroy a city in that one too.
Nah, we're going to go like this.
Alright, we're going to go, alright, let's talk Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim. I went into this having read a little bit of the comic book. I didn't really get too much into it. But the whole reason I really watched it because I'm also a big anime geek, and we all knew that
Giant robots and monsters.
well, we all know that Del Toro bought the Evangelion rights just so we wouldn't get sued. So I want to see how much he ripped it off.
This very much was,
It was Evangelion.
It was.
Changes here and there, but it's pretty much Evangelion. Watching Pacific Rim and reading the comic books afterwards, as usual, Del Toro went, here is comic book, movie. However, it was very entertaining. My biggest issues I had with it is, and it happens every time I watch a movie where you have like the most hard. It's kind of like goes back to the whole AVP thing. Is towards the end, I'm sure everybody here's seen this in the course.
Okay, so no, but we have not one more spoilers, right?
Okay. We have the fact that here you are with the last surviving hardcore badass Jaeger pilots. Okay, you got China represented, you got Russia represented, you got Australia, you got America, and you see these beautiful fucking Jaegers, and 2 of them get destroyed in like 30 seconds. And it's like, I understand they're supposed to be higher and all that stuff, but they're just supposed to,
Yeah,
they talk about
and
it.
they really build it up in the beginning of the movie about how badass these Jaegers are.
Yeah,
they've
like,
survived up until now.
It's like, these motherfuckers are still running a Mark 1 Jaeger, and they're like whooping, they got like a 12 body count, and they kill them all in like 20. You know, I wanted some more, I mean, no offense, I wanted this to take Evangelion into Godzilla. I wanted more monster on monster action, and instead it became a love story. Which was cool, because we've all seen the Asian chick naked in the Bible, so you have this whole other image. But I'm saying that it doesn't work.
Of course, I'm always really worried that, you know, they're actually fighting, you know, it like a mile out to sea, you know, water up to, yes, and they're not in wet sea, they don't have, you know, it's like, oh, okay, our pod is breached.
Well, if you notice, the Russian pilots, since they were using the Mark 1, were the only ones that didn't have a full facial aspect. After Mark 1, if you look at it, like everyone's out there, they have the full facial suits, that way if it doesn't submerge, they're able to breathe or whatever. But it didn't even do the drowning thing. I mean, like, oh, they drowned? No, then you see the explosion, so it's like, what the hell?
Well, at one point the Japanese one gets breached, and they're still going.
Chinese, yeah.
Sorry, the Chinese one gets breached, and they're still going.
Yeah, it was just, it was an old Jaeger, but at the same time, it's like, the plot was very, you know, very different. You know, he took the comic book, threw it out the window, I was expecting more, but on the same note, the movie sucks if you watch it on regular TV or anything. But I'll tell you right now, we got D-Box tickets. That fucking movie rules! If you have a chance to watch any kind of big fight movie, watch it in D-Box, not Iron Man.
Oh, please, no. Oh, God.
Well, let's talk about Iron Man 3. Come on. It is the 300-pound gorilla in the room with 300 suits.
Yeah.
It's still better than 2.
Huh?
It's still better than 2.
Yeah.
Apparently,
he's improved for 2, but what doesn't make it good?
ever since Iron Man 1, it has become the now standard to take great actors as villains and make them good. Okay? We talked about Iron Man 2 last year, so I'm not going to get into the whole meteor, you know, because we were all like, oh, I'm doing this. Let's talk about Oscar-winning Ben Kingsley as probably the greatest villain that Iron Man has ever faced, not being the villain.
You see, I think that it hits upon one of the biggest problems with some of these Marvel movies. And my biggest problem when you make a Marvel superhero movie is that outside of Spider-Man, none of them have these classic villains that are household names. I mean, if I say the Green Goblin or Doc Ock, you all know exactly what I'm talking about. But you walk, let's put it this way. If you walked up to your parents and asked them to tell you something about the Mandarin, other than what they've seen in Iron Man 3, would any of them be able to say anything about it?
Nope.
See, because he doesn't pass the McDonald's test. The McDonald's test is something I come up with for guests and cons, okay? When you put in a con, one of the things you want to know is whether or not the guests that you hire to come intervene, attendees, are going to make the money. Whether or not they can bring in enough people from their name recognition. My thing is, if you stand up at McDonald's and you say, look, it's John Delancey, are half the people in that McDonald's going to turn around and go? That's the kind of name recognition you need with a villain in one of these comic book movies. Like, for instance, Superman is great because, and that's why Lex Luthor keeps getting used over and over again. When you think of the Superman villain, the first one you think of is Lex Luthor, followed closely by Zod because of Superman 2. But you know, you tell people the name of a Batman villain other than the Joker, and they'll scratch their heads. That's also why I think it's also why we haven't gotten a good Wonder Woman. Because Wonder Woman does not have that classic villain. I mean, the Cheetah, Cheetah's supposed to be her big bad, but yeah, not in the class of Lex Luthor. That's for sure. And I think that's the problem with Iron Man too. You know, Iron Man, I mean, even among comic book aficionados, if you ask them to name one really good Iron Man villain, most of them will go to the Mandarin. But the Mandarin is not someone our parents are going to recognize. You know, they're not going to spend their $14 to go see a movie about someone that they don't know.
We're watching Iron Man 3, it really just felt like to me it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like, alright, he signed on for free as shaking this one out, just to get it over with and focus more on the whole industry.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing I felt about with Thor 2.
Yeah, well, Thor 2, I actually thought was a decent movie. I really enjoyed Thor 2. And I gotta hand it to them for going the whole mythology thing in the comics. You know, I mean, that they're really taking the whole Nine Worlds thing and they brought a lot of that into it, the Dark Elves and all that stuff. I thought it was really well done. My thing about Thor 2 is that during the whole scene in London, I kept waiting for the Doctor to show up and save everybody. You know? Like, where's the TARDIS? Where is he? Come on, you know? But yeah, and then and it was really funny because my wife completely missed the fact that Christopher Eccleston was playing the bad guy in that movie.
I didn't realize it was him.
Yeah, well, it had makeup, but there was one point where he rants at somebody about something, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Christopher Eccleston. There was no mistaking it to me. But yeah, Sherry's like, my wife was like, what do you mean Christopher Eccleston was him? As who? he was the main bad guy, honey. Really?
My biggest issue is, they went more important shock factor, and like I can just see like all this little teeny boppers like, oh my God, they killed Loki. I'm like, we watched it, oh my God, Loki. I'm like, did they kill the entire freaking, franchise relies on this one guy? It's like when I'm watching Thor movie, the first Thor movie, when I'm watching Avengers, alright, and I'm watching Thor, it's like they're pandering towards that, basically the same kind of mentality we have towards the Matt Smith Doctor Who. Yeah. The ones who are going to jump ship because Matt Smith is, the new Doctor is not a hot little culture thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, everyone look around and like, it's always about, look how beautiful Thor is, look how beautiful Loki is. And you watch it, and once you take that in, you start watching it, you see that there's certain scenes and certain camera angles are taken just for that aspect.
Yeah.
And you're just, meanwhile, like, they're taking plot and going,
Yeah.
And then for real, the chainmail pillow, that's not the argument. Chainmail pillow. Does anybody else recognize that? Chainmail pillow in Amazon? Yeah, watch that. Yeah, I've seen the guy reporting.
Where you put it down on the bed?
Yeah, he puts it down on the bed and chainmail pillows. I'm like, I guess there's not a lot of gay people in, Asgard. I'm like, why? I'm like, can I just bite that pillow? That would suck.
See, there's a big difference between the way that John Q. Public goes to see one of these movies and the way we look at these movies.
Right.
I mean, they see Loki die, and they're like, oh my God, he's dead, oh my God. And we see Loki die, and we're like, well, they put a revolving door on heaven like 30 years ago in the comics. So, he's not dead.
Where he dies, not even 3 minutes before, we saw how he tricked everybody by killing Thor.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, dude, he's not dead. His whole thing is, ooh, look at me, you trick people.
Yeah.
But going back on what you were saying, name recognition, the honest test aspects, and we have the same issue going back to the Marvel aspect, is Wolverine movies.
Yeah. The Wolverine is another really.
The Wolverine is another one that I was like, I can't believe I'm marathon. Alright, I can't believe I'm marathon all day and at the climax of that movie going, crap, this sucks. Because every once in a while my friends do Epic Movie Day, and we pick a day, and we get like 5 movies, and we pay $60, and we go watch them sit down in the theaters. And apparently the theaters caught on, and then all the DVD film my stuff in the morning. But anyway, watching the Wolverine, they were stretching. I mean, of course, we never stretch. Nobody knows. Anybody who doesn't follow it, I mean, you say, who's your big bad guy for Wolverine? 9 times out of 10 we go,
No, I disagree. I think you have an equal chance when you say who's big bad Wolverine for them say you.
yeah.
That's why I think in the first Wolverine movie, as awful as it was, the fact that Sabretooth is really the bad guy in that was really brilliant on their part, because he really is the one.
Are we really going to bring in the first Wolverine?
No, we're not.
Are we going back?
We're not going down that road.
We're going back to Deadpool?
What they did
We're going to open that door again?
Poor Deadpool.
One of the things I dislike about the newest Wolverine movie his claws were, the adamantium guns, like, they're in this lab that's set up to actually use adamantium. Couldn't they have just replaced his claws? The nice people, just
But
like,
on
here
the
you go,
same
shoot.
on the same thing, how many times has Wolverine lost his claws?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time.
It's like, oh my god, what are we gonna do to make Wolverine legend? We're just gonna give him low instead of Ant-Man. And guess what? He'll have Days of Future Past comes out this year, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's gonna have.
You'll see the trailer tomorrow. See you next Wednesday.
I can't wait to talk about future movies. Talk about my theory about that.
We have two panels tomorrow.
That's right.
We also have a 2014 Beyond. Well, we just talked about it.
Sweet. The issue I have with Wolverine, besides, the Silver Samurai aspect of everybody's like, why the hell is this giant robot instead of just a dude in a suit? It was very, very drawn out. I remember sitting in the theater, and I saw it twice, because I thought maybe the first time I watched it was because I've been at the theater since 10 a.m. and it was now 9 p.m. when this movie started. I was worn out. And I remember watching it and going, this is just dragging on. So do we really need 30 minutes of this? If you're going to cut 30 minutes out of this and put 30 minutes more of Wolverine going nuts and killing people.
Yeah. Well, because let's face it, the reason you go to a Wolverine movie is to see Wolverine do what he does best.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see some hack, you want to see some slash, you want
You want to see some blood?
You want to see a lot? That's another thing. Apparently,
you want to see him smoking a cigar and calling people bum.
Yep.
the fact that there was blue freaking blood.
Exactly.
I was like,
Where's the blood?
where's the blood? But apparently, if you pick up the director's cut, they put all the gore back on. So I haven't watched the director's cut yet, so I can't say.
I don't know. I haven't bothered.
He really doesn't have to pop his claws to kill people.
No.
With the adamantium, it's like getting hit with a skin-covered sledgehammer.
And there have been times in the comic books where they have taken advantage of that. He doesn't actually use the claw. Just hitting him is like hitting someone with a hammer, because his bones are freaking laced with metal. I thought that Wolverine's an interesting character because when they first created Wolverine, the original attempt was to make him a teenager. When they pulled off the mask, he was going to be a teenager. They wanted to be a complete mystery. And then they realized that Wolverine was doing things that really weren't appropriate for a teenager to be doing.
Smoking, killing, and mayhem.
For Christ's sake, Marvel's not really known for doing that. We have to talk about the whole Kid Pride Colossus thing.
Or Professor X and Jean Grey.
Exactly. We should totally do a panel about that.
Well, the fact of the matter is that a lot of stuff that we know as comic book readers, they did into these movies, they would explode the heads of John Q. Public and his wife out in Peoria. Boom! Yeah, they would not be able to hack something.
Which is why we go to now more the niche comic book movies. Is either the way I see it is the people that don't realize it's a comic book movie,
Right.
or so comic book movie that only hardcore comic book fans like it. And we're going to step on the first one, which is probably to me the greatest comic book of 2013. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly never thought that they would make a good Judge Dredd movie. Simply because, the comic has that hyper-stylized violence thing going on, where you're like, yeah, blood, gore, yeah, it's awesome, right? And I'm really not one for that either. But I knew that it's such an essential part of Dredd's world that I never thought they'd be able to translate it to this game. But I watched Dredd this week because I knew he was going to talk about it at some point. And it was really incredible movie. I was very surprised. Everybody's seen it, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, did you see it in 3D or regular?
What?
Did you see it in 3D or regular?
I guess on regular.
I saw it in 3D.
3D, 3 times.
I mean, in 3D when
Yeah.
they're throwing people off.
Oh yeah.
Those scenes where they're throwing people off the balcony and stuff like that, I can totally see
That was.
But to me, I mean, those of us, especially many of us sitting here,
I would, like I haven't seen the movie, but I would think it would also give you an idea, better idea of the scale of featuring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can totally see the movie being better.
to me, watching Dredd when I first, sat down, of course, we've all watched Judge Dredd, and I was all like, please, I sat down and the lights go down, and I'm like, please don't let Sylvester Stallone have a cameo. I don't want to see Rob Schneider.
This story I gotta tell. I'm sorry, I hate to get through the story I gotta tell. My wife, she works with the Geeks Empowering for the kids with the kickers and cosplayers for charity. They were doing a shoot in New Orleans City Park for one of their calendars, right? And it was Stallone was filming in New Orleans at the time. He's in the sculpture garden. Our photographer, who they're like, hey, Sylvester Stallone, and the only appearance that he came to his mind, Stallone mind, was this is Stallone, and Rambo, Rocky, right? And for guys my age, that's what we think of, right? When we think of Stallone. No, the first thing he thinks of, you the guy that played Judge Dredd? I'm like, oh my God, that's the only thing you can think of. I'm like, what's the matter with you? But Stallone overheard him and immediately started doing the Dredd. It was pretty funny.
When I sat down and the lights were down, I was so worried. And those who have come to the panel several years ago understand that I am the most pessimistic person when it comes to comic books. And then, I wouldn't even say 10 minutes in, seeing Urban just, I went for once. It was like that once in generation character, because like Heath Ledger with the Joker, everybody says, but I didn't know who it was. Carl Urban, as you said before, should win a nomination for the chin acting.
Yeah.
He was great. He was iconic.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he did not take off the damn helmet.
Yep.
I mean, that impressed
In
the
the
shit out
comic
of me.
book, he only did it once.
He only did once.
And you never saw it because they wiped it out. He's all,
And I
what
think-
the hell happened to his face?
I think I might have been partial to it because everybody who knows me is when I say it's the quintessential comic movie, it's Punisher Warzone, because that was pretty much a direct from this Punisher back and forth. Watching Dredd was so much like reading Dark from Dredd.
Mhm.
And I was like, they finally picked an independent movie, an independent comic book nobody really care about, and nobody wanted to touch Texas Stallone, and they made with this masterpiece. It's all people.
Yeah. So it was excellent. Well, it was an example of a comic movie well executed.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the guys that wrote it had a lot of respect for the source material. The guys that directed it had a lot of respect for the source material. And I think that's where a lot of these things break down. It's like, if any of them don't have respect for the source material, and like, for instance, I've always said that was the biggest problem with the later Batman movies, the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. Okay? The biggest problem is that I saw an interview with him at some point, and his exact words to the guy who was interviewing was, whoever said Batman was supposed to be all dark and gritty? And I'm like, now this is a man that obviously grew up on Adam West, playing Batman. Okay, and to him, that's what Batman is. That means he's never picked up a Batman comic book at all. And this is the man that they hand the keys and painting over to. That's the same problem I have with J.J. Abrams about the Star Trek movies.
When I doing Star Trek?
Oh, no, you do. I gotta get out of my system. J.J. Abrams has said repeatedly that he never watched Star Trek as a kid because it was too cerebral. I'm like, if you think that Star Trek is too cerebral, you should not be directing a Star Trek movie. That means you have missed the point. Okay? And now they've given the keys to kingdom to Star Wars. I can't wait for that. I hope the Jedi's enjoyed their rental letters. That's all I can say.
They really should have just given it to Joss Whedon and said, okay,
Well,
make money.
yeah,
Make
exactly.
money.
Seriously, I would watch the shit out of Whedon Star Trek movies.
Whedon's
He'd be
too
incredible.
busy basically
Making all the money for the event.
Exactly. I'm saying that kind of thing. But the other topic I was going to make, comic movies and people don't realize comic movies is red tape.
Yeah.
My parents, another good example, my parents go on, seeing a movie, come and go, oh my God, it was such a great movie. I'm like, really? You're aware that it's a comic book, right?
Yeah, well, one as an example, my parents saw it. They were going to see Bruce Willis film.
Yeah.
And they had no idea that it was a comic book. They had no idea it was a graphic novel or anything like that. But they went to go see it. They loved it. And I suggested that they read the comic. And my dad was like, "There's a comic."
Quick, favorite scene from Red 2?
Huh?
You've seen it, right?
No, I haven't seen it. It's okay.
Favorite scene from Red 2, anybody?
When they're driving and, the guy in the trunk starts beating on the trunk. Is there a guy in the trunk? Yeah.
My favorite scene is watching Brian Cox looking for wearing shoes. How beautiful her clothes are. She snipes people and kills them.
Yeah, well, what it comes down to, it all depends on how much the creator of the movie respects the source material. When they don't respect it, we get things like Lee Pittsburgh or Gentleman.
Or RIPD.
No, that's R.I.P.
Or Man Thing. Or Man Thing.
Or a man thing.
Oh, that was a bad movie.
Fan.
Friends don't let
The
friends.
Phantom was good.
I like the movie better than Bruises.
Lucas was alright.
Yeah, I actually like the movie a little bit better than the comic.
The only thing is, every time I watch the movies, I keep thinking they're trying to be the boys, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I would love if they made the boys.
Yeah, because you're going to automatically, cast Simon Pegg as Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
But then it'll be on AMC like Preacher's going to be, and it's going to be watered down and crap.
But since we're
Well, I don't know. I have high hopes for Preacher.
HBO turned it down because of content.
Yeah. I
Do you
know.
really think AMC is going to push it as far as HBO would?
Let's put it this way. Walking Dead becoming such a big thing, it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Are we gonna talk about how much they fucking diverged from that? I'm really pissed.
But Walking Dead's just the gore and the violence. Preacher, you got the whole religious aspect.
Yeah.
That's going to scare away advertisers. You ain't got the advertisers, you don't have the show.
Yeah, and that's very true.
They don't still have James
It'll
Bond.
be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the religious aspects of it. I don't think that they're going to be able to use the main storyline.
Nope.
God,
The whole, like, where is God?
Well, the Messiah's not going to show up.
There's no way they're going to be able to do that. But I'll be interested to see. Now, I have high hopes for it. But then again, I'm an optimist about this thing.
I'm the best.
Yeah.
I actually sat through the first couple seasons of Smallville hoping it would get
Are you that guy that sat through all of Enterprise?
I sat through all of Enterprise.
Oh.
Enterprise is worth it for the payoff of the fourth season.
And the third season. I like the third season.
But,
The third season was interesting, I'll give you that, but the fourth season, for guys like me who've been, seriously, I've been a Trekker since 72. I mean, I was there at the beginning, okay? and yeah, I really enjoyed Enterprise, I gotta admit.
Well, since Preacher got brought up, let's visit the whole aspect of what we see coming up.
Yes, we'll talk about it.
Days of Future Past. That's the big elephant in the room.
They're already changed so much from the original storyline, and they had to because in the X-Men movie universe, Kitty Pryde's not really a factor. You know.
But here's my thing. The way I'm feeling about this, we have First Class, Days of Future Past, and now they're announcing the Apocalypse. With what, 2016, I think they're saying it's going to be? I really do think that either A, they just, don't give a fuck about anything, see Jackman sign off on movies. Because we know offense, that's what everybody's going to see. Or B, I think hear me out on this, I have a theory. That studio has a contract to film so many X-Men. Okay? Which is weird because we always heard the reason that they did the X-Men First Class, because they couldn't get the same rights, they owned Storm and all that, because somebody else has to be here, you are, but, so they're signed on to a trilogy. Trilogy's out, Disney buys back the rights. We already know that in Avengers 2, they're introducing Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And
But
Scarlet Witch.
well, what's interesting, I think, is that they're also introducing Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in Days of Future Past.
It's the same actors.
Well, but it'll be interesting to see how they treat the characters differently.
Right. So what I'm thinking of is, since they're already I haven't been able to catch up on all the Shield. They've already made the hint to Doctor Strange, and everything Doctor Strange, and all that kind of stuff. This is all going to coincide that by 2020, we're going to have Isaac.
Yeah, probably.
And that, to me, if they pull that off, would be probably the greatest. Just because I want to see the end when.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that Days of Future Past is the original source material is just such a strong story, and kind of speaks to themes of persecution and our own anxiety about the future. I think that it's going to be really hard to screw it up. I mean, even putting Wolverine in the Time Traveler role, it will be very difficult for them to screw it up so completely that we won't go see it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's face it. The fact of the matter is, every one of us is going to go see this in the movies. Just because it's the X-Men. And
Yes, we're Marvel fans.
Well, yeah, and
No offense, lately for the past, as far as it comes to group stuff, they're saying this is the Adventure Time to Avengers. I mean, Disney buying Marvel is probably the greatest thing that happened to comic books. Right? The problem is now you have companies like DC that are trying to compete for money with Disney. Right? But so far, Disney has not screwed anything up outside of the Iron Man thing that because they went to Disney stuff. Disney was all up about that. Right? And Iron Man was produced like with Paul after 4 episodes. Right. So they're still stuck on this kind of thing. Why I say I think there's a whole freedom in the last 2 movies. I just gave that away.
well, the fact is that Disney's been at it a long time. And for all of Disney's faults as the big media overlord, they do know one thing. They know what will appeal to the mass market. You gotta understand, they're not making these movies for us. They're not. They're making these movies for John Q. Public on the street who's never watched comic books before. And it helps. I mean, the fact that when you make a comic book movie right, it appeals to us too. It's great. And it's something that Disney has learned, through the Marvel universe. Warner Brothers, not so much.
No.
Warner Brothers is still like, oh, well, this didn't appeal to test audiences, let's change it. Not understanding that they're eliminating core aspects of the character. I think that's one of the real reasons why Dark Knight Rises was such a clusterfuck, because they released test audiences and they had all kinds of problems with the way it went. Batman was being betrayed, and I'm like, Batman's supposed to be tough. He's supposed to be good. He's supposed to be a badass. He's supposed to be the most dangerous fucking man on the planet. And just because mom and pop Peoria can't get that, doesn't mean you should change it.
Speaking of which, what do you think about the new Green Lantern?
I'm holding my breath.
Oh, come on, dude. You're the optimist.
You want to know what keeps me optimistic about these comic movies? Because I was born and raised hardcore DC. I'm a DC guy. I'm not a Marvel guy. But what keeps me optimistic about the DC movies is the animated films that they're cranking out. I watched Justice of Doom, and I was amazed at how well they pulled off Vandal Savage, how well they pulled off all the ancillary characters that went into that movie were just amazing. Of course, it pisses me off that they keep using the Royal Flush Gang. The Royal Flush Gang. But the fact that they actually were able to translate that story that well. The same thing for the Crisis on Multiple Earths. I think they did the Crimes that they did perfectly. I mean, that is exactly the way you need to play Owlman. And I think if they could get the people that are in charge of their animated universe, in charge of their regular movie universe, they would be doing a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 separate divisions of the company. It's never been trained. Otherwise, you don't train right.
Just from the aspect of animated and all that stuff, takes me to TV series. You mentioned Walking Dead. Okay, and now we're talking about Preacher, we're talking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Arrow, which apparently people are saying I have to watch. I haven't had a chance to catch up with it. I have to watch this. The reason I have to watch this is apparently I have one employee who's obsessed with Crixus from Spartacus. Okay, and just because we do Bennett is Arrow, I have to watch it.
Well, you do realize the reason that we got an Arrow TV show is because they couldn't make a Batman.
Yeah.
That's why we got Arrow.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that, and I love this about Batman, especially when they do crossovers with Green Arrow in the comics. Batman's always ragging Oliver Queen about how he's never had an original thought in his life. He's got the Arrow cave, he's got the Arrow plane, he's got the Arrow car. He's like, dude, sorry, the Arrowmobile. It's the Arrowmobile, it's not even the Arrow car, right? And Batman's like, dude, if you're a multi-millionaire who comes with all these toys and fights crime at night, who does that sound like? Get a life. While obviously Green Arrow is most often compared to Robin Hood, the fact of the matter is he's Batman with a buck. In the best version of the character, he's Batman with a buck. And that's what Arrow was very much run with, because they couldn't get the right team.
Nowhere that cool.
Oh, he's not easy. On his best day, Oliver Queen is not nearly as cool as Batman. He never will be.
Oh, look, you finally get it,
Yeah, I sat through 3 minutes of Pathfinder going, what the hell? What does this mean? I don't understand.
So, you know, the other thing I want to bring up before we start hitting what I'm going to be attacking for the next 20 minutes after I say this is, okay, I actually sat down and started watching The Walking Dead.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's because my roommate's obsessed with, Norman Reedus. To go back on the whole preacher aspect,
Mm-hmm.
if you take a look at what they did to The Walking Dead, preacher's going to be nowhere near what we think.
But you see, the thing is, with Walking Dead, I mean, and this speaks to the preacher thing too. The Walking Dead, the TV show, and the Walking Dead comic book are two completely different creations. They really are. They're based on one's based on the other, but they are completely different.
But if I'm going to sit down and watch,
different
if I'm sitting down and going to watch what I'm expecting to be the misadventures of Jesse Custer, and end up being with another redneck with a crossbow,
Mm-hmm.
played by probably Sean Patrick Flannery, since he has no words, no reason to don't work. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be pissed because Preacher is kind of what introduced me to Garth Ennis. When it comes to authors, that's who I stand by. Every time we have a committee meeting, I'm like, can you Garth Ennis? Like, he's 7,000.
Dude, I think it would be worth it if they somehow managed to work gas station.
If they were
I do not care how god awful the damn show is. If they work ass face at that show, it's a win.
Well,
That's a win in my book. Yeah.
Well, you can't do the Messiah. You can't do the the Cardinal, the big fat Cardinal.
Yeah.
There's like 3 whole storylines you can't do.
Well,
it's
not that they can't do it. It's what the repercussions will be from them doing.
No, the thing is,
I
they
think
can't
that's
do it.
They can't do
There's
it.
so many things because now they're being picked up by AMC. Like, if it had been HBO or Showtime back in the day, they could get away with just about anything they want. But due to the fact this is AMC, this is a cable television thing that has advertisers. And considering even though people are like, oh, Walking Dead's for sure audiences, damn straight how many people are like, oh, you want to check out what these guys are doing? Come on, little 10-year-old, watch this.
Mhm.
Because, I was 4 and I had to watch something. So I know this is what, okay? They're not going to be able to pull off, reading everything. Even let's go first grade.
The more I think about Preacher's storylines, there's a lot of storylines.
Yeah.
Well, like, think about it. Sheriff Root can't be done.
Nope.
You can't do the Meat Man at all.
Nope.
There's a good half of it that can be done.
It's going to be just one thing. And it's going to be, if anything, it'll be a one-season thing. Because nobody's going to want to watch it.
Yeah.
Alright?
Well, it all depends on how much it depends on how well they hit that chord for Middle America. Because not for nothing.
That's-
Again, you gotta remember, they don't,
Middle America is going to hate that show and protest it.
you gotta remember, they don't make these movies and TV shows for us. They don't. As much as we wish they did, they don't. Occasionally we get lucky and the two coincide. But they don't make them for us. They make them for mom and pop Peoria that's going to tune in every week. So they can do whatever the hell they want to that character.
To me, it's almost like, you know what? I think they pulled it, just bought the name Preacher so DC won't freaking sue.
It's possible.
Well, it's not even. They didn't even have to get it from DC. They got it from Ennis and Dillon because they got the rights back.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Yeah, the rights reverted.
The rights reverted to them 6 months ago or something.
The thing is, I'm watching this, I'm like, I'm hearing all the rumors, like, oh, it's going to be great, and I keep thinking it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to end up with, watch, you know what's going to happen? Next season of Walking Dead, Daryl's going to die, and he's going to come back as freaking free. That's what's going to happen. Because it's like, oh, nobody wants to watch this anymore, we're going to do this. But, to me, I think, and I hate to say this, I think the mainstream in comic books is what's killing the industry. Right? And this brings back to that, but not just the fact that all the comic movies that are coming out, this also comes from the fact that we have stuff like, how do my guys call it? Big Bang Theory. My guys call it nerd blackface. It's when they mainstream the culture that we have had and we've lived in for, so many years, it's now, well, what can we do to make more money? And it is. It's all money. That's what it always comes down to.
I stopped watching Big Bang Theory after the second episode.
Really?
Yeah, it offended me that much.
You made it further than I did.
Well, you know what it was? I forget if it was episode 1 or episode 2 of the Big Bang Theory. At some point they have a discussion about whether or not Superman would be able to catch Lois Lane because she was falling off the building and Superman was Superman. And they were playing it for laughs, like, look at how nerdy these guys are. But I've had that conversation with my friends, okay, about whether or not Lois Lane would get sliced in half due to the velocity of the light. And we were serious about it. And the fact that they were playing it for laughs, it bothered me a lot more than it probably should have. But yeah, I didn't watch that.
However, admit, yes, you've had those discussions.
Yes.
It's fun to watch people having those discussions.
It's fun. Okay, let's put it this way. It all depends on how you look at that show.
Yeah.
And who you think the main character actually is.
Mm-hmm.
During the first season, and mind you, it has changed since. My understanding is that it has changed since. I have not watched it. Okay. But during that first season, it's very much look at the pretty girl living next to a bunch of nerds.
Yeah.
Nope.
And that's very much the tone of that show for most of the first season. And so the point of view character is Penny. It is not any of the people that we relate to. Okay, and that's a shame. I think that it's doing a disservice to nerd culture. I think that if they're laughing at us and not with us, and that bothers me. That bothers me a lot.
What show would you say does more for nerd culture?
What show does more for nerd culture? I don't know. I have to really.
Because I have an answer.
Okay.
Community.
Yeah, Community is a solid answer to that. Because the D&D episodes are fucking brilliant.
We did want to go
Oh my god, it's
I did not
fucking
realize there was a show. I was in the hotel room last night and I was watching Paul. Okay, he was on the side watching. There's a fucking show called My Big Fat Geek Wedding.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's coming up. Yeah.
That King of the Nerds, all this stuff. Where's this all coming from?
I tend to put, honestly, King of the Nerds in the same book as with The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
That's what, but where is this all coming from? It's like out of nowhere. I'm not saying it's making me angry.
Well, on one hand, it's a great time to be a nerd.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a great time to be a nerd. We're getting more movies done that we appreciate. We're getting our culture is being celebrated in huge festivals across the country. But there is that element where they're also laughing at us at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
However,
See, King of the Nerds is definitely them laughing at us.
Yeah.
I have
mean,
an
they make
answer
such
for
a
where it
big
comes
deal
from.
about one of those guys being a virgin
Mhm.
that it pisses me the fuck off. You know, I mean, because not for nothing, I ain't no virgin. Okay? And I am a hardcore comic book sci-fi geek. Okay? I'm one of those guys that knows a couple of words of Klingon just so I can ask where the bathroom is. and if I was on that show, they would be making fun of me for it. And these are things about myself that I am proud of. And I just think that is a shame that part of our book has come to that.
Alright, let's go to one more negative thing since we have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Ben Affleck?
Well, I knew Ben's name was going to come up at some point.
I want to watch a comic book movie. I don't want to watch Jersey Girl.
Okay. Daredevil, Stank on Ice is the kindest thing I can say for it, but I actually liked him. I think he actually did the character well.
Well, my thing about okay, do this way. Ben Affleck is a comic book man. He has that much going for him. He understands how important it is to get Batman right.
Mm-hmm.
And he understands the expectations of the role.
Yeah, but Nick Cage is a freaking loon.
Nick Cage is a huge comic book nerd.
Yeah.
He's a big anime nerd too.
But Nick Cage can only play
Nick Cage.
Ben Affleck has only been able to play.
Well, you see,
Ben
I
Affleck.
disagree with that. I think that there are rules that he's been in where he succeeded that.
Which ones?
The one that comes to mind right away is his role in Dogma.
No, because you're watching that. How dare I talk about shit about Kevin Smith? But that was nothing but Good Will Hunting with Angels.
No, I disagree.
Look at the way him and Matt Damon.
Let's just wait. Good Will Hunting, I would grant you that. Good Will Hunting is him being him. But I think, especially towards the end of Dogma, he transcends that.
Well, because he was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, whatever
And
works.
fine. And so was Michael Keaton when he became Batman. He was high as a fucking kite.
But he was working
Bruce
with
Wayne.
Tim Burton. Dude, Tim Burton, do you think that's white makeup? No.
Well, but you see, the thing is that's what I like in this whole Batfleck thing too. The whole Batfleck uproar on the internet. When we first found out that Michael Keaton was going to play Batman, I was a
Mr. Mom the
hardcore nerd.
Batman.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Mom is going to be Batman. That's what all my friends were saying. That's what I was saying. And then he turned out to be actually pretty badass in the role. I was shocked and surprised. That wow, holy crap, Mr. Mom, Batman, yeah, I see it now. You know, I think Ben Affleck's going to surprise everybody with this.
The thing is this, though, from what I'm reading, when they first announced it, they didn't announce him as Batman. They announced him as Bruce Wayne.
Right.
So are we going to see Batman?
Yeah, we're going to see Batman. There's a suit. They're not releasing any images of it.
There's a suit.
There's a suit.
Those guys, there's not going to be nipples on it.
If they're a Batman.
No, that's Wonder Woman.
If it's not black,
You know what disturbed me? I was watching Conan O'Brien a couple weeks ago, and freaking Chris O'Donnell still has his Robin suit, Batman suit. And I'm like, the fact that suit still exists offends me.
but I mean, I'm not gonna, I watch it, and I keep thinking over and over and over. And like I said, Man of Steel, taking in the fact that it was just simply a setup movie. We got Man of Steel 2. I'm just like, it seems like introducing Batman at this point, especially not 3 years after we've gotten said goodbye to the Batman.
Yeah.
It's going to end up pissing a lot of people off because you're going to go in thinking he's going to act like Christian Bale Batman, and instead we're going to get. Because I'll say this: will Ben Affleck do a great Batman? I don't think so. He'll be able to do a great Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
All right.
So it'll be like with Clooney.
It all depends on.
No, Clooney sucked altogether. I will say this:
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, great Batman, shitty Bruce Wayne.
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer, best Bruce Wayne I've ever seen, shitty Batman. Okay.
Well, Clooney actually almost pulled off Bruce Wayne, and he almost pulled off Batman. Almost. But no,
You gave him a back card.
again, you understand, I guess I have a different perspective now on it than I used to, because I've gotten involved in film documentaries, and I realized how much of what we see is really affected by the people behind the camera. I mean, let's put it this way: he could have nailed the Batman part. I mean, he could have done it easily as good as Christian Bale. He could have done as good as Christian Bale, but if that performance wound up on the cutting room floor in favor of what we got, we would never know. We would never know. And so a lot of it has to do with what the director is choosing to show us of that performance. If the guy thinks that the best Batman ever was Adam West, we're fucked. Okay? If they think the best Superman ever was George Reeves, not that I don't.
They're probably Man of Steel were fucked anyway.
But as far as a modern Superman, we're fucked.
No.
If the guy's only exposure to Superman is Dean Cain.
Or the
You
Superboy
take that
show.
back. I got good memories.
Wait, no. See, Dean Cain, I actually like Dean Cain's Superman because he got Clark Kent right.
Yeah.
And Clark Kent to me is 90% of Superman. Okay, but his actual Superman, I'm less steady on. But again, if that's his take on Superman, we're fucked.
We're fucked up. Also, have to realize the fact that Warner Brothers is yet to put out outside of the Batman film, right? Outside of the Nolan trilogy, the Nolan Batman, DC is yet to put out a decent non-Batman, live action film.
The Losers was close.
Yeah.
Losers was close.
Close.
But it wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Man of Steel was close.
No.
But it's still not the caliber of, say, an Avengers. It's still not the caliber of.
Yeah.
It wasn't the caliber of Incredible Hulk. I'm
Well,
sorry, I
but
disagree.
another thing about
I
the
will
Avengers,
argue that one.
and I've thought about this for the longest time, man. The thing about the Avengers, that teaser scene at the end, is the most brilliant thing Marvel ever fucking did. It's a completely heartful the Justice League movie.
Yep.
Because the second they show Thanos on screen, they can never use Darkseid. If they're going to have the Justice League fight a worldwide global threat, the best DC villain for that is Darkseid. And he shows up the Horde of Anarchy, and you need the fucking Justice League. Okay? But they can never use Darkseid after they show Thanos. Because at that point, they're going to be accused of ripping off the Avengers. And especially with the alien invasion plot that they had in the first Avengers movie. Again, they're going to be accused of ripping off the Avengers.
Yep.
And if you're not using the alien invasion plot, because Lord knows, that's what worked for the animated universe. The Justice League happened because of an alien invasion from Mars. the White Martians show up, and it was brilliant. But the fact of the matter is that they can never do that with a live action now, because they'll be written off the Avengers. It's like a no-win scenario for the guys writing the DC movies. I mean, what other villains can you actually stick in there that are going to be a threat that require the formation of the Justice League?
Those are super criminal movies.
Well, exactly. What, you're going to pull Luthor out of retirement cap and have him get some freaking Solomon Grundy?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Well, you got Starro.
What?
Starro.
Starro.
I don't think mainstream
Starro
America is ready
Starro.
I don't
for
think we're ready.
Starfish.
Mainstream America is not ready for people walking around with starfishes on their head. Simple as that. I mean, I love the Starro stories. I really do. I think Starro is actually a very interesting character.
Mhm.
Just, you got the concept of the group mind. I think it's a fascinating one. But Mom and Pop Fiore are not going to understand. Oh, the starfish is on their face. They're suddenly mind control.
Invasion from Bizarro World then.
I don't know. But again, Bizarro, I love me some Bizarro. Me and fan of
Again,
Bizarro.
America's not ready for that.
But America's not ready for Bizarro. They're not.
Try to explain to your, think about it this way. Try to
Let's put
explain
it
to
this
your
way.
7-year-old
Bizarro-
kid that that Superman just killed everybody.
Bizarro
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
has been represented in television and movies 7 times. I bet you couldn't name one of them.
He was on the animated series, the only one I remember.
He was on the animated series.
There's
He
And Super Friends.
was
Superboy.
also in Superboy. He was also
Lois
in
and Clark.
Smallville.
Wow.
They did an episode of Lois and Clark with him.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarro was all up there, okay? But do Mom and Pop America recognize who Bizarro is? No.
No, sure.
You know, I mean, and I think Bizarro, again,
But
fascinating.
Mom and Pop America doesn't recognize Darkseid either.
But it's easier to understand the evil conqueror, alien overlord,
Mhm.
than it is to understand some of the Justice League
Mhm.
villains. And again, this is shoot themselves in the foot.
The key.
I mean, yes,
The
we can
key.
have Luthor
Dr.
run
Destiny.
a group of superheroes to take down the Justice League, and it'll make an interesting movie, but it's not going to be nearly as big as Avengers was.
What about Doomsday?
It's not.
You know,
Dooms? Huh?
at this point,
Well, I think the Crime Syndicate, if they're going to do something like that, the Crime Syndicate's the way to go.
Yeah.
But again, alternate Earth, Superman, things like that. Again, Mom and Pop, well, people like us who read comic books all the time, that's standard stuff. Mom and Pop Peoria, it's not. It's really not.
Well, the evil twin trope from soap opera, so that is sort of mainstreamed.
And
Yeah, but then they're going to have Ultraman show up with a goatee to prove that he's evil.
well, you can say they're not ready for it, but the thing is, were they ready for what we have now 10 years ago? 10
No.
years ago,
They
were
weren't.
they ready 10 years before
Well,
that?
yeah, because also
You just can't do it right away.
you also
have
have
to move.
exactly how long it's going to be to actually see a jail lady.
4 years.
Dude, I'm telling you, the freaking Superman Batman movie, the Man of Steel 2, is going to be a Justice League movie. They're getting it under the radar. I'm telling you, it's going to be
I
Justice
don't think it's
League.
gonna
Because
be
they've already cast Wonder Woman. There's talk that they've cast Cyborg at this point. I mean,
Until I see Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
Martian Manhunter's another one you're never going to see. Okay? Again,
He's
portrayed
green,
3
he's just like
times
Superman,
on television
bad
movies. And you can't name more than one,
But to
The
me,
Justice League movie that didn't air on CBS,
right?
with the guy from MASH playing him.
What's the second one?
It would be Justice League cartoon.
Smallville, he was in Smallville.
Yeah.
And of course the animated series. We all in the animated series.
again, I'm just going to pull out the fact that, you know, what I anybody other than Flash is, no matter what they do, even if it's just going to be a jail movie, Warner Brothers and NBC is going to play catch up with Marvel.
Yeah.
That's at least 10
At
years.
least the next 10 years we can catch up with Marvel. And that's a damn shame because they had to jump on all this shit in the 70s. And they fucking let it go to waste.
Mhm.
That's just a damn shame.
The way things are going right now, I'm kind of, almost hoping that DC, stops with the live action stuff and just concentrates on the animated stuff.
The animated stuff, they
It's
blow
so
everybody.
much.
Oh, yeah.
It blows
Animated stuff,
Marvel
I will
stuff
sit
out
there
of the
and
water.
I mean, I remember actually going to see Master Phantasm in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of the greatest animated movies ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's
Well, no, it's not. Wait, was that time's up?
Who's after us?
Really?
Who's after us? Yeah, fuck that dude.
Well, he's not here yet.
He's not here.
No, actually, he's in another panel that I've already done the time's up by.
Well, he's still not here.
So now we're going to do the quick political aspect. Colossus. Who's going to side with? Ukraine or Russia?
Ukraine.
He was for the Russia.
thank you all for coming to our panel. I hope you
Yes.
all enjoyed it.
And we will see you all again next year.
More
Better days.
time.
Why this?